The letter M in the palm of your hand, it's a gift. It is a warning, and I'm going to get through it. Hardly anyone has the courage to say. If you have such a design as formed by the lines of your hand, and you carry both a benefit and a hazard, and to ignore either of the other tend to charge a higher price. Because of the M does not appear in the people's distracted. It appears to be in the one who notices the other, in the one who feels too much, who knows what's going on before any of the others, and often pay for it. The catch? Do you read people so easily? Do you realize intentions are private? Are you anticipating their movements? Do you have the intuition and a sharp, strategic mind, emotional sensitivity, and the ability to lead a culture? But now we come to the part of you that almost no one had. The danger of an M that is exactly the same as the advantage of the excess. An excess of awareness turns into anxiety. An excess of empathy becomes exhausted. The excess of intuition becomes paranoid if you don't have control over. People with this brand tend to fall too soon under the responsibilities that you didn't ask for, carrying the problems that they are not one of them. Enter the cycle of loneliness because they see things that others overlook. And here's the conflict in real life. Or you can learn to master the sensitivity. Or she gets to master A. There is no in between.
It is for this reason that, in reading the old, with the M has never been treated as lucky. He often appeared on the final exam, fall strategy, the cycles of change, a time when the life forces you to grow up way too fast. Now you are paying attention to it because it's important. The M, it doesn't make anyone special to you automatically. It indicates only the potential to be. Potential and no direction to turn to chaos. In the course of this video, I am going to show you why is this a brand that is associated with a real advantage for, that it also carries the risk of emotional and psychological distress, and as some of the people with this sign are missing out, while others learn how to use it as a strength. And before you go, I need you to be straight with you. If this matter had already caused a tightness in your chest, don't go out. Subscribe to the channel. Share this video with somebody that I've always said, I'm late, or I can see things that no one sees. Because that's all I'm going to explain to you from now on. It is not comfortable, but it's liberating. After this, you'll never look at me that letter, even to himself, in the same way. I can remember the exact moment that it happened. It wasn't dramatic, it had music. It was the revelation of the divine. It was quiet, but it has been a permanent basis. That was the moment when I stopped to look at my palm as the one hand, and I began to see it as a panel.
As if something was in there the whole time, waiting for me to stop, pass a straight line. Because people grow up using the hand on the automatic transmission. I get it. I write, to hold on to work for me. I greet him. The hand turns the tool, an extension of the body, never the object of your attention, and almost no one to, actually, in order to deal with the lines, as if they were in a language that the old writing out the words, but the filled with meaning. And when you do that, because there's no way around it, because the point of this is simple and at the same time uneasy. The rows are records, wrinkles tell the story, scars that tell of the battle. Brands include waterfalls and overruns, and the lines on the palm can tell you the trends. Not a sentence is fixed, not like a prisoner. I don't believe in destiny as an imprisonment, but how does a world map of the slopes? Just like a road that you will not be obliged to follow it, but it shows clearly the places where you will go if you keep walking in the same way, with no question, in the automatic transmission. And that's exactly where it comes to just the letter M. It is not so obvious to the eyes. She says, it is said that she appears with a few key areas, if you are located in a specific way, creating a design that resembles that of an M, and in the realm of Freemasonry, and also from the reading, symbolic of a deeper, this has never been treated as a detail either. It is most often associated with intuition, sensitivity, the ability to read people, and heightened awareness, and in some ways a kind of so-called internal to the person, do not always understand at the beginning. But I'm going to tell you something very important that is really interesting for the people to deal with this subject, such as nature, and then begins to look at it as a metaphor of power. That's why even though you don't believe in anything mystical, nothing, a fact that's impossible to deny it, people are intuitive. There aren't some people that you are capturing the atmosphere of one of someone's open mouth, that feel when you have something that doesn't fit in, even without any evidence. The perceived intention of the tone of voice, in the pause, you look at the power of a conversation. You will notice the details that go completely unnoticed for the most part. It's not magic. That's the perception. And if a symbol such as a letter M to help someone to wake up to this and to comply with it in and of itself so that the symbol has a value, a lot of value. Now, let me pull you out of it because that's part of its own. And if you're one of those people, and if you've ever felt something to do and then he was trying to explain rationally why did you feel it, and if you've ever noticed that someone was lying to you without being able to pinpoint exactly why, and if you've ever walked into a place and I knew instantly that there was a tension in the hidden, even if the whole world for you to choose. I'm not telling you what it is to be able to, all of us. I'm telling you that it is a perception of a refined. Perception is a two-edged sword. It can also be trained, and it can be ignored, or it can also be observed. And it's right here, at this point, the silent of the art. This journey began. Let us take the weight off of it right now. Breathe in.
And we are going to explain to you how we really do. When you talk about the letter M on the palm of the hand, we are not talking about anything magical appearing out of nowhere, and no design is perfect as if it had been written there with an intention to do so. You are talking about something that's much more subtle. Are they talking about the meeting, with a design that can arise when some of the main lines of the hand, they connect in a way that is specific, in a cross-natural, with a lineup, a plug-in. And when you look at it with the calm of this encounter reminds you of the shape of an H. Nothing is forced, nothing artificial, only the lines in its own way until they meet each other. The interpretation of the common people say that the M's usually involves lines all over the world, but it has almost no notice of the fact the line is from the heart, connected to the way that you feel, that engage, connect emotionally.
The line of the head connected with the way of thinking. He decides, analyzes, and interprets the world. On the line of life, related to his vitality, strength, and direction. And, in some cases, the destination that is associated with a direction, a purpose, and a great face. When both of these lines of approach meet and create a form that resembles an M, some traditions are symbolic. They see it as a sign of integration. Not perfect, but in a mixture. A mixture of intuition, intelligence, emotion, and insight. The sensitivity firmly in place feel it, without losing her ability to think. But now comes the most important part of all of this, and I want you to listen to. This is not having M who makes them special. It's just the opposite is true. That is, you have to be a certain way, and this symbol will end up serving as a visual metaphor for that, as the hand is just some time to think of something that already exists on the inside. Because a lot of people want the M's as if it were a badge of VIP for the entire universe, as if it were a stamp saying, you're different, you're the chosen one, you are above the average. It's just that in reading the symbolic grave, so it was never like that. The M is not a coin, it's not the prize, it's not a trophy. The M of the mission, and the mission isn't comfortable for you. Mission of the snake, the mission requires it. The mission tests the limits of emotional, psychological, and Germany.
It is for this reason that this symbol, if it occurs, tends to come with challenges that will not be seen, of the internal conflict. From the moment a person feels who sees too much, feel too much, I understand too, and you don't know very well what to do with it. So, if at this point you're thinking to yourself, okay, but what is that mission? Secure it. Don't try to answer now, because in the next few points I'm going to show you, easy on the hand, which will charm, and that weigh you down, on the side, which seems to lead, and that it becomes a charge. And that's exactly where the story starts to get serious. When you talk about the people who carry the mark M on the palm of the hand, which will almost always appear in the same set of features, not as an absolute rule, but as a repeating pattern, as with certain qualities, so when they continued on to appear together. And so when I started to look at it calmly, it's one thing became clear. It's not about being the best, it's about a conversation. The package usually starts like this. 1. Intuition and well above average. This strange feeling of something is not okay that comes up out of nowhere. Without a proof, don't lose it immediately. And too often to confirm later. Not because you are a fortune teller, but it's because of you picks up signals are too small for most to miss. A shade out of this place. A pause is too long. Something that doesn't fit. It's as if his mind connect the points in the silence and will give the result in the form of a feeling. 2. Empathize and read emotions. You are entering in the environment and to feel in the mood to understand why. You can sense when someone is uncomfortable, even with a smile. Do you know what has not been said, and at times that has been hidden on purpose? It is not the effort. To read, it happens to myself, and a lot of times you will find out more on the emotional state of someone's the same person. 3. The connection and the connection is deep. Conversation is empty. You get tired fast. You have to try, but what you're asking for is depth, the truth, presence. Do you like to talk about the things that matter to you? To understand what is behind the words. Go beyond the surface. For this reason, when a connection happens, it's usually on the other side, for real, outstanding. 4. Creativity and originality. People of this type are rarely think of it in a straight line. They see alternatives, solutions, that is unlikely, thoughts that were not in the script. It is a mind that cross-references, a mix of experiences, to create something new from what seemed to be disconnected. 5. The desire to help, to guide, to lead. And this is curious. Many of the times, you become the director of the group with no plan for this. The people you are looking for, trust, Sabbathum, they ask for my opinion. Even if you don't offer, someone engages them in conversation. Even when you want to silence it, they feel they can talk to you. Just now we come to the part of you that almost no one noticed. There is a catch, silent in all of this. When you are born with that sensibility, you are born with a tendency toward a dangerous absorb too much. Soak up the emotions that are not their own. Soak up the problems you've caused. Soak up the responsibilities that no one asked for it officially, but do you feel the same way? And so, over time, can turn into anxiety.
You can turn into constant fatigue. You can turn to irritation, and for no reason, of course. You can turn insulation. This is exactly the point at which the symbol of the M doesn't look pretty, and it starts to get serious, because it does not point only to the sun. He points out the weight that comes along with it. And if you don't learn how to deal with it, what was the advantage to begin? Slowly to charge you for the price. I'll tell you now, the one thing that almost no one has the courage to admit when you romanticize spirituality, intuition, or feeling. The one thing that hurts to hear, but for him, for when it is to be understood. The sensitivity, and without the direction of turn and suffering. I had a light. Do not turn on power, turn the weight. If you are in a very user-friendly, if you know too much, if you feel it in the atmosphere before the entire world, there is a danger silent, that is, almost no one warns you. You will get to experience too much.
You begin to worry too much. You get the blame for things that are not their own. You get to try to save the whole world and loses all in itself. And the most dangerous is that this doesn't happen all at once. It happens little by little and almost imperceptible. When you see that you're tired without knowing why, angry for no reason, of course, isolated even when surrounded by people, the sense of constant, that is something you away, but you don't know exactly what it is. It is precisely for this reason some of the interpretations attributed to Nostradamus, the brand name M, has never been treated as a simple blessing. It is the responsibility of the spiritual, as a sign of someone that has to go through internal testing before they are able to make good use of what we carry. They are not an external test. They are built in. Emotional control, the discernment process, out, self-awareness. Since the intuition grows up to maturity, is not included in the Dom, turns around in confusion. And in the confusion and over time, it becomes a pain. Right now, I want you to bring out that fact, not as a theory, but as a personal experience. Then answer truthfully. Have you noticed on your palm there is some education also has an M? If you've never looked at it with attention, he says simply, I have never looked at. That alone says a lot. And now for the most important of all, you will have a different hand.
Some of the brand's strange across a format that has always caught your eye. It describes in his own way. Don't need to know the name of the coach. I want to see how many of the stories are beginning to show up here, because sometimes the first step, so as not to suffer from the sun, it is to recognize that it is there. The name of Nostradamus did not go unnoticed. Just listening to a lot of people have already feels like a glimpse of light, almost on instinct, and I understand why. He is best known for writing the prophecies in verse, fragmented, full of symbols and images of the strange and the meanings that are open. Material that is not explained in the lead. It does not give answers, ready to, force the reader to think, feel, and act. And that's just where it starts with the lure and dangers. Now, being completely honest with you, there is no absolute consensus on what Nostradamus really wanted to tell you all that he has written. A large part of the haikus circulating today is a later interpretation, are to be read symbolically, made after the fact, the attempt of human beings to find order in the chaos. But in the popular imagination, and in the content as this is what we're exploring, there's an idea for appellant that Nostradamus would have pointed out not only to external events, but to carry on the human being, the signs on the body, signs of the time, signs that don't scream, just to show who is paying attention.
In the narrative of the letter M on the palm of your hand appears as one of these signals to the destination, not in the sense of the sentence, but as the brand's strength, as a quiet reminder of the fact that certain people would biases specific to at an early age. Right now, I want you to understand something crucial here, because this is a game changer. When a symbol is associated with a powerful figure, a prophet of the famous is a name that has crossed the centuries. This symbol will be automatically gain weight. It's just a sketch. He had seen the message, seen something that appears to be larger than oneself. The psychological mechanism is very simple. The symbol draws attention to itself. The name of the famous gives you the authority, and the mind starts to pick up the meaning, but the healthiest and the most dangerous and at the same time of use. This is not about, I'm special. It's the thought, do I need to pay attention to me? Because at the end of the day, what really changes his life is a letter that is drawn in his hand. It is not for a prophet to the old one. It is not a prophecy as mysterious. What has changed everything is the moment for you to wake up, and you realize that maybe there is something you are requesting for it to be understood, to be developed and run. And when the time comes, you ignore the call tends to be expensive. Here's the thing, it is indeed a curious and a little out of place. The number 13 and carries a weight that's weird. A lot of people feel fearful without knowing how to explain why it is what it is. It is divided state, is hidden, as if it would bring bad luck, as if it would be better not to move. But traditions are symbolic of old. In the 13th has never been treated as a race. It has always appeared as a transformation, death and rebirth. As the end of the cycle and restart the inevitable. The 13 represents the destruction that is free of charge. It represents the time at which something must finish, for something else to be born. And in the narrative is associated with the brand. M is the 13th. Seems like a trigger, a breakdown. For a period in the life of tightening force, the breaking of the ancient structures, and push the person out of the place comfortable for you. It's times of crisis, facing the sudden, the falls which can hurt your ego, but you are saving the nature. And when I look at this thing, it would be impossible to ignore. Have you ever noticed how there are people who just awakened after a collision? After a loss it hurts, after disappointment who wants it all, after an emotional breakdown that forces you to stop. For the person looking for their own life to take a deep breath and thought, I can't go on like this. In this moment, this is the second quiet clear. This is the 13th in the action. In this context, it is the 13th is not a punishment, it's the number of waking up.
And if you have a profile that's more intuitive, more sensitive, more perceptive, these calls tend to be more intense. Why, you don't just see the changes coming in, you'll feel it. Do you feel uncomfortable before the fall? Do you feel tired before the crash? Do you feel that something needs to change before the world and force them to change? Oh, and here comes the question. What really matters to you? And that almost no one answers honestly. When your life is when all the signs, when the discomfort, he insists. You will obey, or you can resist it. Because it's the 13th will always charge you a response. He had a point in my life where I've tried to ignore all of that. Ignore the signs, ignore the sensations, ignore that intuition that was screaming, whispered to him. I kept repeating to myself like a mantra, defensive. It's just anxiety. It's the only thing that's in my head. To the question, everybody feels like that. It was so much easier to discredit me, to take something that was not real. And then there's life. He did exactly what she always does when people do not learn the warning light she teaches, at the impact. She didn't argue. It does not negotiate. She is a snake. I began to see a pattern which is impossible to ignore. Every time that I drowned in my perception, all the time I pretended that I didn't feel, I was paying. Paid for it with hours of wasted time. I paid with a power-drained soil, paid with the wrong choices.
Paid for by people who are in the wrong, occupying way too much space in my life. It was as if the life is told without words, you have been warned. And it was at that point of tired, keeping an eye out, no more excuses, you and I understand it's something that has completely changed the way I look at myself, something that I want to give you now as to this play. Intuition is not fortune-telling. The intuition is to read. This is your brain picking up on micro-informations all the time. Tone of voice, gestures to a minimum, the silence too long, the inconsistencies and subtle, and with all that's in the background until you deliver the results in the form of a feeling. It's not magic. This is the deep processing. Right now, I'm going to be very direct with you. It's a way more humane and honest as possible. If you feel that this video is really shaking on the inside, if it's something where the inside is okay by saying, this is me, then you're not the type of person that was supposed to be here, just passing the content as entertaining. This is a video to see the half of it. It is not a matter for me to get into and out of whenever you feel like. Then the following are now without any delay. Subscribe to the channel, seriously, right now, because from here on out, the conversation gets more and more dense. We're going to talk about the responsibility to wake up in internal testing, the eclipse as a symbol of the power of personal, and also to the risk.
And if you add in the middle of the path, you will lose your wireless network. It loses the connection. Misses one important piece of the puzzle. Then sign up, activate. You can activate it there, and it gets to me. Because it is now no longer a curiosity. This is the exact spot where curiosity, seeing the transformation, now for the story to grow. And she grows up because he started to play with something bigger than the individual. A solar eclipse always got to be a human being, since the beginning of the story. Not only because they are scarce or are visually stunning, but why did they have to break down the natural order of things? The light is gone. The day is dark. The sky changes color. The sounds seem to slow down. For a few moments, the whole world is weird. It's as if someone turned on the fact that for a moment and then turn on again. This is the kind of experience that you never go unnoticed. The ancient people would stop wars and used to hang the ritual, silence Siavam the crowds in the face of the earth. Because, however, it was not just an astronomical event. It was a warning. On a symbolic level, the eclipse represents just that. Shadow, pause, the breaking of the pattern, restart, a revelation. This is the moment when the light disappears, so that something hidden, it can be seen. And within the narrative, and is connected to the M, eclipse will appear as periods of time where the power seems to be increasing.
Not in the sense of far-fetched, but as the shake of a kill. And to say, no words, it's time to wake up. Time to look at it. Time to review the choices. Time to face the truths that were being avoided. And this is where I need to be fair to all of you. You can interpret it literally or metaphorically. Literally, there are people who believe in the portal, the energy of activation, subtle changes in the field of emotional commitments. It is, and that's enough, eclipse, seen as a symbol of perfect. Because when it's light upside, unseen, you are bound to see a picture of the inside. And it's no coincidence that many of the more sensitive people report intense periods close to the big event. More dreams come true. The excitement on the surface of the skin. The more insight, a sudden. More anxiety for no apparent reason. More reason to want to change it or to get away from it all. It is as if it is something to be touched from the inside, without asking for permission. So the question was never, is this real? This is the wrong question. The question is a lot more direct and more bothersome. What do you do when everything is heavy? You are listening to, or will you flee? Why solar eclipses happen? The show tends to be. I've learned the hard way that up is not only to be lit, zen, peaceful, and perfect. Up also, look insecurities, look for patterns, facing his addictions, emotional, to face the fear of rejection and face up to avoid.
Face up to the need for approval. When the power rises, the shadow comes up with. It's as if his light bearing him to the dust, hidden from view. And because of this, some of the readings, they say that people of this type are facing tests of internal conflicts, turmoil, times of loneliness, and the feeling of not fitting in. And right now, I would like to be part of comments in here. Do you have a line in his hand which seems to form the letters, symbols, and crosses several times a day? And another one, have you ever lived a moment's all it became more and more intense out of nothing? The kind strong emotions, dreams, the strange, the desire for change, a sense of calling. He writes in his own way. I read it as a story, not as a judgment. When you say that the brand is M turns you on ancient wisdom, that sounds great too. So I'm going to translate for you. The wisdom of the old in practice is as follows. To understand the cycles, you understand that all that is. You understand that the crisis is not always a punishment. Sometimes it's cleaning up. To understand what life teaches us in symbols. You understand that there you have to learn to deal with the invisible, emotions, instincts, desires, and fears. And there are people who are born with a more easy to do it. Not because it is superior, but because it is the most sensitive. Only that the sensitivity to no structure turns to chaos. For this reason, the M would be, you are a chosen one.
It would be, you're in charge of learning how to drive. I'm going to say it, the most underestimated in this issue. The gift without the discipline becomes an illusion. A lot of people confuse intuition with momentum paranoia, fear, anxiety, will the moment. So how to make? I use 3 simple questions in my life. It makes me feel more clear-headed or more desperate. Intuition tends to bring out clearly, anxiety and brings a sense of urgency. It protects me or me to hold. Intuition of the point of care. Fear is pointing to escape. I've seen the signs real, or is it just the imagination? Intuition and eating patterns. Fancy eats to talk. And now I want to hear it again. Comments on, do you have any line other than the in person? Any brand name that you've always found it strange? And I said, do you consider yourself a more rational or intuitive? I want to get to know who's on the other side of it. A strong part of this narrative is the idea that people with an M would have an important role in times of crisis. But let me translate it in a way that a person. There are people who, when things fall apart, don't panic, comes into focus. There are people who, when someone else is lost, you can turn to. There are people who, when the world is quiet, watched quietly from the inside out. This is in the lead, not in the office, leadership presence.
And it is for this reason that this kind of symbol you can run. Why does he give a name to something that a lot of people feel but do not know how to explain it? It's just that it scares you because you lead the real charge attitude, charge up the courage, snake responsibility for the emotional. And if you have always felt different, maybe it's because you're trying to live a little to fit into places they don't serve it. Right now, I have to be honest, it's because of this right here can save you from falling into the trap. If you hear, do you have one in your hand, you are special, and that's to feed the vanity, eventually. Because of the ego, the spiritual is the most insidious. It makes you think which evolved, when it's actually just gained a brand new way to feel superior. The symbol is only used if you have to make it more simple, more to watch out for, responsible, the more aware of it. If it makes you cocky, and then it turned into just a fantasy. And I say unto you that in the first person, because I've seen people into spirituality on the stage, and it destroys relationships, it destroys focus, and destroys the truth. So the rule is very simple. The symbol is a crown. The symbol is a mirror. There comes a point at which the subject no longer to be the Nostradamus and turns to you. Because in the end, it's all about, do you feel like you have a calling? Do you feel that you notice things that others don't know?
Do you feel that it carries a responsibility to be invisible? Do you feel that you need to know about the truth? And now I want to turn the comments into a living laboratory. Comments in here. Do you have the M on the palm? If you don't have it, you have a different format. A cross, a triangle, a line, a double, an interruption, a strange, anything at all. And if you're able to, describes on the right hand, left hand, near the thumb, middle, and on top. I want to add these accounts because at times, the piece that is missing for you, it's the story of another person. Now breathe with me, for I am going to close. That's the way it has to be shut down.
If you've read this far, I know one thing about you. You're not the kind that lives only on the surface. Do you want to know the signs and patterns of meanings? Do you want to feel the life is not just a repetition? And you know what? Whether you are a novice, just to be here for you if you're doing a rare thing, you're looking at it. The brand name M is to be taken literally. It is the history that points to an idea. There are also people that see it the most. And you see, it is not a privilege. It is the legal responsibility. So I'm going to give you everything that I am right, just as strongly as possible. Subscribe to the channel right now, because this is the type of content you don't want to see at once and then forgetting about it, is to keep up and evolve with it.
Share this video with someone who keeps saying my intuition has never failed, or someone who loves a mystery, symbol, target, and spirituality. You can literally be the one who's going to turn to a key in one's life. Leave your like. Yes, I'm asking you all to the letter because it pushes you in this video for the people that you're looking for just such a conversation, and you don't even know. Now you tell me, what is the mark on your hand is covered in this video? This line is different. That the discrete signal, that little mark that has always been there, waiting for direction. Write in the comments, because that's all you are pointing to is now, it is not the detail. This is exactly what opens the next section here on the channel. Now, there have been 2 videos on the screen to choose one of them, and it keeps me on to the next one.